So do you really want to know how advanced all the aspects, the technological, information, military, medical, research and development, whatever you want to call it? It's everything. Do you want to know how advanced they are? It's the equivalent of between 2,000 and 3,000 years more advanced than what we have in the public right now, if we continued hitting these quantum leaps of advancement in technology and intelligence. Meaning it's not 2,000 years times the past 2,000 years, give or take, in ascent, not in the amount of time taken, but in the development. It means we hit an exponential increase, and so there's really no way to determine where we would be and therefore where they actually are. But one data point of information, this is annoying, physical dimension is annoying, is that surveillance isn't really visual anymore. We think it is, and it may be on the surface layer, but that's all old tech. And a lot of times the old tech will be in use, and it will be like an onion where certain companies and clearances for technology will be using tech that is comparatively to the inner layers, tech that's, years, it's ancient stuff. The inner layers would never use the tech that they're using on the outer layers now. And the outer layers think they have the highest technology and access, and it's literally just like it's like sophomore or even freshmen compared to seniors or something far outside of that whole system entirely. And some may suspect that that's how it is. A lot of times it's so powerful and well thought out that every layer thinks they're the inner layer. Every layer thinks they're the one in front, basically. And in that sense, no one really knows how far it goes, who the inner layer is. It's perfect. Although we're moving out of an age of secrecy and such a necessity for suffering and the green light is out, and the green light went, and because that light was out, the person just didn't go anyway. Because I'm talking to this, I didn't honk earlier, but yeah, that person's inner circle is pretty much a bag of rocks. And relatively speaking, everyone in line that isn't talking to a camera right now. But that the whole format for secrecy and pretty much the suffering that it creates, and the suffering that, the potential for suffering and basically war that ultimately necessitates secrecy and deception. We're moving out of that now, at least on the inner layers, which is interesting because then how many years is it going to take to occur on the outer layers, which is where this society is from the surface, basically what we call humans. Which is also the strange part, because I haven't gotten to the first thing that I was going to say yet, but the technology, it's really about the mechanism. Like I said in the previous video, which I actually couldn't clean up enough because the audio was covered with traffic sounds, which I'll have to do something about. I basically can't ride next to the road on a bike and talk at the same time because it's too loud. I'll have to get a very directional mic and insulated backing to try and possibly make something, but then doing that in the winter, it's going to be so hot. So it's like, anyway, I mean, in the summer and the winter it could work though. We'll see. But that's the weird thing about this. Basically, intelligence determines one's reality layer in this system. In a similar sense, biologically, the hormone mix, the ratio and proportions, same thing, of hormonal secretions in a person's blood determines what genome or genus they belong to, which is a strange way to look at it, but it's how it is. If a person begins to move into a different format, okay, if their body changes, they're becoming a different being. And if their intelligence level increases, this also determines the reality they belong to beyond the biological limitations, but literally the conscious limitations of what they can conceive of, what they can comprehend in terms of the world they live in, okay, and the structure of their inner reality, basically. And so when any of those get too far, not too far, but far outside of where they were at a certain point previously, you end up with a different type of being. So as a result of these technological increases, which led to a different kind of biological a capacity to alter the biology of the being, basically the human, and more or less simultaneously to an enhanced intellectual or level of intelligence, that was the beginning of the next phase of humanity. You know, people want to say all they want, that they're going to resist and they're going to do this and do that. The truth is, because those that are resisting are doing it in ways that are less advanced than those that are not, it's destined to dry up. And eventually everyone will succumb to advancement. Which sounds paradoxical, but it is what it is. It's also like saying people are going to succumb to losing their fears and kind of gaining that which they're afraid to gain if they have access to more power, which can be kind of occultic or corrupted depending on what we're talking about here. But if a person inherently looks at the power as something negative or devious, malicious or destructive or deceptive or the words or parasitic, basically, which is what some of these power methods are, okay, if they're inherently looking at it like that, then it's incorrect. But the idea, and they should be looking at it and flipping it to the positive non-vampiric version, because why would you not? But the idea is that with these layers being set up, the inner layers, that was where humanity like molded itself into a different format for existence, and things pretty much changed from there. Excuse the glare. Which is interesting because it's like a wave. On the outer layers, they haven't realized yet that everything's changed. There's inside that onion layer of technology and intelligence and secrecy and the different organizations and companies or if you could call governmental agencies. They don't realize that the inner layers opened a dimension, if you will, where a new universe exists, and the outer layers, we're just waiting for that wave to come back and hit us and change everything, which people are also trying to stop from changing everything because it'll disrupt the current power scheme. But the idea is what I wanted to begin to speak on, just a quick video, is that surveillance isn't done through visual cues anymore. On the outer layers, yes. Now it's done through DNA, and this is done through not a material, usually like a liquid, there's a certain word for it, I can't remember what it is. The chromospectrum or something. It's like in gas testing and radiometry, I think, where they split up a material into gas and shine light through it, and you get a different frequency depending on what it is, and the computer system will be able to like read through the frequencies and determine what it is, molecular weight and things like that. Chromatography. But the idea is they figured out how to do this not in a lab, not in a little slide for a microscope or a vacuum tubule chamber. They can do it from the sky with a laser, I think more than one, on you. They can sense your DNA by gas chromatographying the air around your body. And basically it's described that you're breathing off a scent of biological material which is so refined that we couldn't detect it with our noses or with anything else. But if you did have technology that could detect pretty much down to the molecular level, then you could find streams of a kind of pseudo-gaseous emission of genetic material coming literally out of your body, off your skin. So we have these big gas streams, this scent of our DNA off of our body, and everyone is doing this, and they have the system pretty much, it's like it's not hardwired, not wet wired, it's electronically remotely connected, like a neural network if you will, so that everything can be monitored at once all over the place. So basically, if a person was to be found, then these systems could scan coast to coast over time, but pretty much coast to coast, and ultimately refine each individual living being's DNA trail scent signature by the thousands and millions until a person was identified based upon their DNA, their genetics, not their looks or their clothes or their shopping, patterns or behavioral patterns. Although behavioral patterns and all that would be involved in the system as well, because why wouldn't it? And so basically, if a person touched the air, if they went outside, if they sweat in the open air, that would be all that was required for these atmospheric detection systems to find them. If they sweat in the open air and they had DNA, and that's the hint that I'll leave it off at right there. If you can figure out how to get around DNA, then you pretty much figured out one of the latest technologies, because everything that they have and everything that I'll tell you about, someone figured a workaround for, which is hilarious, because it's like, this is unstoppable. There's like space age stuff, and then it's like, wow, what is it go? Well, these guys over here figured out how to fix that and work a loophole around it. Like, what? How? Who? But they did. And if you figure out and you research all the other stuff we're talking about, once you do basically get into that, then you can get a workaround for anything. So why not? If you can be anywhere. All right, thank you. This is a weird one, I know.